Unleash the power of knowledge and connect with the heartbeat of the African diaspora. Download our African Diaspora News Channel app now on Google Play and Apple App Store. Stay informed with authentic and diverse perspectives, breaking news, and cultural insights. Immerse yourself in a community that celebrates unity, resilience, and progress. Experience the vibrancy of the diaspora at your fingertips. Don't miss out. Empower your perspective today. Search African Diaspora News Channel and join the conversation.
When you stand your ground, eventually Western powers can no longer manipulate you. And I think this is what we are seeing in terms of Niger. When President Mohammed Bazoum was ousted in the coup, we saw everybody put so much pressure, especially France, who was saying, one, we will not leave. Two, you have to reinstate President Mohammed Bazoum back into power. And the military junta said, no, actually we will not. This is our country. These are our people, these are our resources, and only we Nigerians have the final say on it. And despite the fact that these Western countries were trying to use France to twist Niger back into line, Niger stood their ground, and guess what? ECOWAS is removing sanctions. Hello there, how are you doing? Welcome to another episode of our conversations. My name is Ondiro Oganga. I'm a business journalist by profession and a digital content creator. I love coming on here, having conversations with you guys about Black people, Africans, our empowerment, and how we can rise up and take our rightful place at the global stage. Connect with me on social media at Ondiro Oganga, or you can come over to my YouTube channel at New Dawn Africa channel, where I profile the continent through people, politics, and culture. Today is a very interesting day because I want to touch on something that has been in the news for a while. So we all know that there have been several military coups in the Western Sahel. There's been a coup in Mali, there's been a coup in Niger, there's been a coup in Chad, there's been a coup in Guinea, there was an attempted coup in Sierra Leone. So there's almost like global order is readjusting. What's the right word? That is not it. Africa is finding a new order, right? Africa is finding a new form of democracy. The people are revolting against the chokehold that France has had on Francophone countries, particularly in the Western Sahel. These countries got independence, but they're not independent. They've always been under the rule of France, right? And these are videos that I've done here before. This is something that Dr. Arikana Jihombori has spoken extensively about, where you're free, but you're not free. This is the leader that we want you to put in power. This is the president that we want you to have. Outside of that, you're going to keep almost all of your money in the French central bank, and we're going to keep it for you. And anytime you want some of it, we're going to give it to you as a loan, which you pay back with interest because it's our money. You'll keep paying for the infrastructure that we build, the roads, the school, the healthcare, while we were colonizing you and looting your resources. All that notwithstanding, we still expect you to continue paying for those resources. And as if that is not enough, military, you'll only buy military equipment from us. And if you need any military training or intelligence, it will only be from us. So how are these people free? How are they free? All the resources on your land, they are on your land, but they literally do not belong to you. We own them. So how are these people free? And so we see Francophone countries that are mad with insecurity, Francophone countries that have resources but are poor, and just a region that is so disoriented, and you wonder, what is wrong with these people? Get it together. Apparently, there was one common denominator, France. And when the schools began happening, it was people revolting against that French rule and saying, whatever come, let it. But we cannot continue living like this because the last 40 to 50 years of French domination under neocolonialism has not brought any difference. So we might as well just do this on our own. And I don't think that it has been the easiest thing because you do not want to make an enemy of these countries because they're also very petty. France will call their friend Britain, Britain will call their friend US, US will call their friend Germany. And it's almost like now all the big boys are against you. But the thing again is that when you stand your ground, and I think I did a video last time on how President Putin stood his ground and he's standing the test of time when it comes to the wrath of the West. And Niger and other Francophone countries are showing us that you can actually withstand it, because after the coups, particularly in Niger, France kept saying, reinstate President Mohammed Bazoum, reinstate Mohammed Bazoum. And this was the same chorus for nearly 6 months. And the junta said, no, it's not happening. And came sanctions, particularly sanctions from the ECOWAS bloc. Actually, the ECOWAS was even threatening to invade Niger. And it only took Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea saying, if you invade them, we're going to fight with them and we're going to invade you too. And it also left Nigeria at a very critical position, because their president is the head of ECOWAS, and it's not like Nigeria also is a very strong and fortified country security-wise. They have their own internal challenges, so you do not want to make enemies of your neighbors. And these guys, even there was a time I did a video asking, who exactly does ECOWAS work for? Because they cut electricity to Niger, they closed the borders, food, water, medicine was not getting into Niger. The regional central bank froze the accounts of Niger. They couldn't access their funds. Actually, they missed paying their loan, $24 million, and so far they've defaulted on $600 million since the coup began. And not that they cannot be able to pay, it's just all these sanctions that were slapped against them were really hard. You know, Niger is in between Nigeria and Benin, and both of these borders, which are very critical borders, were closed, to mean they were literally on their own. The prices, there was a time I was doing this story for a podcast, and I was just listening to the people of Niger speak. Of course, they were very happy when the coup happened and they felt like they were being liberated from the French rule. But you could see that also people were feeling the heat of the economic sanctions that were being imposed against them. The cost of food doubled, the cost of medicine tripled, and there's just a wave of hopelessness sometimes that just takes over the air. People who do trade could not work because now borders are closed. People cannot move, goods cannot move. And fast forward nearly a year later, ECOWAS has decided to lift the sanctions. You know why? Because they say the sanctions are hurting Niger, the sanctions are... All these are just excuses. They've realized, France has actually realized that Niger is not backing down. Niger is not actually backing down.
Nigeria covering this summit for us. So some sanctions lifted. Tell us about those and the possibility of more sanctions being lifted on other countries.
Well, basically, Foley, the sanctions on the Niger Republic in particular have almost gone, or with the declaration today. They've lifted almost all the sanctions there. First of all, you know, in the wake of the coup last year, July 26, there was a total blockade of Niger from land, air, and sea. The borders have been closed, travel ban or travel restrictions have been placed on the military leadership there, as well as members of their families. Electricity was cut off. Financial transactions to and from Niger have been blocked. They've been suspended from all regional organizations, including financial institutions in the region. They've also been, their assets have also been frozen in the entire region, either in banks or other engagements in the region. But all these sanctions have been lifted. In return, the Economic Community of West African States, which ended its meeting here in this particular hall, demanded the immediate release of former President Mohammed Bazoum, who was deposed in a coup in July last year. They also wanted a specific timetable on returning the country to democracy. Apart from that, they also relieved Guinea in particular from some of the sanctions imposed on them. They've also asked Mali, they've also allowed Mali or its citizens to be employed again in ECOWAS member states and, of course, ECOWAS institutions. They've also demanded for some reforms immediately from these member countries, in particular Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. And so they say they will review these situations, but they also insisted that democracy must be restored and these countries must provide an agreeable timetable to return those countries to democracy.
Ahmed, where does this leave ECOWAS as an organization today? Is it weakened as a result of these crises?
the general feeling is that the image of ECOWAS is battered. It's been considered lately as an organization or an institution that has failed to keep most of its members in line. And there is also this concern that its failure to address some of these issues, especially the coups in West Africa, an epidemic of coups, some diplomats call it, could result in more instability in the region. Now that these countries, the junta-led countries, have poked ECOWAS in the eye, there is this concern that it's increasingly looking weaker and weaker, but leaders here are hopeful that the concessions met at this summit today could lead to a more unified organization. It's not clear whether or not the Sahelian countries of Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger will agree to return to this organization quickly, but again there is this concern that they may prove too difficult and they may make less and less concessions to the economic community of West African states when it demands so. Foley?
And this is so interesting because it's just last month that I was doing a video talking about how Africans can borrow a leaf from Putin and stand their ground. And I think now from this we can categorically say that Africans can borrow a leaf from Niger. All other countries that feel like they are under Western dominance and they are unable to break free because of the consequences that are going to come. If you can endure those consequences, and it gets hard, it really gets hard because the process of rebuilding is going to be, again, more painful and more costly. But once it's said and done, once they do away with that, then they're literally free. They're literally free. The only enemy they will have is themselves, right? Either the military refuses to leave power or now leaders begin being greedy. But it won't be internal problems plus external problems or external factors influencing what happens in your country. And I think this is where it gets interesting because who knew a day would come where African countries would be able to stand up to these Western countries? Who thought it would be Niger, of all the places, that would begin that revolution of defying the West? Let me know what you think. I'll see you again next time.